Where are you running to? What are you running for? Take some time to pause and reflect. We are improving the lives of people, and therefore we're improving the lives of our society, our economy. Surrounding yourself with laughter. I think laughter is, fake it till you make it sometimes, but laughter is a fantastic, it's a well-worn saying, comes to me very spontaneously on different occasions. I try not to take myself too seriously. I am very replaceable in an organisational sense. So really the only people I need to show up for are those that matter the most. Something will happen. And you know what? It always does. And when it does, you will manage it, you will deal with it, you will react, you will respond. And I guess the sentiment is not to dwell, but to deal with the what is, not the what if. Because at the end of the day, life is very short. We are here for a very short period of time. I think you have to not take yourself too seriously. I have learnt that over the years. When the world around you can seem overwhelming and almost insurmountable, just some perspective and keeping your focus on what truly matters, to learn to disagree well with evidence and conviction. And we also have to be willing to challenge our own assumptions. It's an academic institution which encourages that, which nurtures that guides that provides a place for academic freedom and free speech in a way in which ideas and viewpoints are contested respectfully is a sign of a flourishing university.
It's a cool fire, it is, people say rapid fire, it's a quick one, it's a quickie, but on a happy.
In the boardrooms we find a different kind of mind. Leaders taking time to seek the truth inside. Heart and soul aligned. We can find. Let's spark a change in kind. The journey starts inside. Executive harmony. Together we'll explore happiness and spirit. CEOs and guides, their stories far and wide. From boardrooms to the tide, in a peace they'll fly. Executive harmony.
Very good morning, everybody. I am Professor Nitin Arora, the Professor of Happiness at Amity University, Uttar Pradesh, and I'm a Head of Happiness at Amity University Vicki Foundation Center for Science of Happiness. So, in short, a happiness professor at Amity University. As per the culture of this podcast, Executive Harmony, conversation with global leaders on happiness and spirituality. Here we are on 20th podcast stage. And I'm glad, I'm so honored to have a wonderful guest with us, Miss Vicki Thomson. Welcome, Vicki Thomson, ma'am, to Amity University Happiness Podcast.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me.
Ms. Thomson has been a powerful voice in shaping higher education policy, strengthening research, and ensuring that universities contribute not just to rankings, but to the greater purpose of human progress. Her vision emphasizes collaboration, inclusivity, and the flourishing of individuals and society. If I say she's the CEO, Chief Executive of a group of 8 universities, these are the top research intensive universities in Australia. It's such an honor to welcome you, ma'am.
Well, firstly, can I say thank you very much for inviting me to be on this podcast. I think the idea of pausing and reflecting on what happiness means is so important to all of us. And, you know, I'm just so in awe of the fact that you are embedding happiness into undergraduate and postgraduate and PhD programs at your university. So thank you, and with much gratitude, I'm really pleased to be here.
It's such an honor to welcome you, ma'am. Let's start with this first thing. I'm sure the audience is also excited to hear more about how happiness and well-being is managed at your profile at such a helm of affairs.
In terms of the question of what does happiness personally mean to me, I think happiness is deeply personal. I don't think it's about accolades or titles. I think it's about your personal contentment. For me, it's the well-being of those who are closest to me, my family, my friends, my community, that sense of fulfillment. And I think it's also about living with purpose, surrounding yourself with laughter. I think laughter is, fake it till you make it sometimes, but laughter is a fantastic, it's a well-worn saying, but it is the best medicine. And I think connection, deep relationships with whether that's family or friends, feeling seen and heard and valued, purpose, so engaging in something meaningful, whether it's personal growth, helping others, contributing to a cause or whatever that might be, presence, I think that's really important. Embracing those moments of joy, and you'll hear me talk a lot about joy because I think that is what underpins my happiness. And for those of us who are fortunate enough to have the freedom to choose how to spend our time, express ourselves, and to live the best life that we can live. And that can mean very different things to different people. And I think that's, for me, what happiness is.
So lovely to hear. At Amity University, our Honorable Chancellor, Sir Dr. Atul Chauhan, sir, he has given a mission of student success and happiness. We have a thing like called AHA, A-H-A. AHA means Amitian happy, happy Amity. You can say that. At Center of Science of Happiness, we have this AHA movement, which we try to promote. And our Honorable Founder President, sir, is fully committed with one vision. Students should be the superpower, or students should be the next success story of India and the global success story. And it
sounds fantastic.
Is there any turning point in your life or career where you consciously prioritized well-being over conventional achievement? Something like you have let go of normal achievement or any achievement, but you preferred your own peace, your own happiness, and you just said, I don't want that. Thank you for the offer, but I'm not looking for that.
Look, I don't think it was a single moment, necessarily a turning moment, because I've always carved out time for my own personal well-being, albeit at different stages of my life. And I was reflecting on this question as you asked it, and thinking about, was there an actual turning point? But I think there are so many bits in your life that make up the whole as you move through life. And I recall, for example, being a schoolgirl and getting out of bed each morning and making my bed first thing. My father was a military man, and he embedded in me the importance of that very first task, which leads to the second task and the next task. And I guess the point of that was, if you break up bits of things that can seem overwhelming, the sort of the metaphor, if you just start with that first task, that's a good way to start your day. And the other part for me where I think that I've prioritized my well-being over conventional achievement is I've always put my physical and mental health first. And I do that better as I have got older and moved through life. I think it's very difficult when you're young to really understand that you're consciously doing that. I think you reflect as you get older that you are. So I've appreciated the importance as I've got older of the things that I have put in place, really as the runway, I guess, to get me to where I am now. Running was my weapon of choice for me. I have a very active mind, and I realized that when I'm running, although I haven't been able to run of late, but when I was running, it was the only time that I didn't think of anything. And that was my aha moment when I realized I'm not thinking of anything other than the music that's in my head and maybe how I'm going to tackle that next hill. And I think another turning point in my life that has impacted my career has been becoming a parent, and not just a parent, but a mother to two beautiful boys who are now beautiful, young, fully fledged adults. And that really hones your sense of your own well-being. You need to be well for them. You know, they rely on you for so much, particularly when you're little. So for me, that the most profound shift in my life came with motherhood. I think it redefined my priorities, their needs, their growth, their happiness became my compass. And it also put me on a journey of learning new things about myself, because you're very different before you're a parent to when you're after a parent. And that's not to say it's all easy. It's always sometimes challenging, but no professional milestone compares to that lifelong journey, I think, of nurturing them. So not a single moment, but little moments which have added up to, I think, prioritizing your mental and physical well-being so that you can be the best version of the person that you are.
You reminded me of two people based the answer that you just said it. You must be aware of Indra Nui, the chairman of PepsiCo, ex-chairman of PepsiCo. So she was asked, ma'am, you had kids, how do you manage? So she said, though it is very difficult and it is looks awkward, but then I will tell you. Then she said, I had my secretary, I have told her that if my son calls in the office that I need the password of Xbox, then you have a checklist for her that have you done the homework? Have you done this? Have you done that? If you have done, this is your password. If no, then first get the work done, then get the password. And then she said one more thing, about there was one president of American University whom we interviewed, Mr. Nuno Fernandez from American University, Virginia. So he said, when my daughter was born, my son was born, that was the moment I forgot I was the president. I was just any other person in the hospital waiting for my happiness to come into my lap. And that was a changing moment for me, that I forgot my other things somehow.
It is life altering becoming a parent, and you derive so much joy, but there are also challenging times, as we know, because, you know, it's hard, and the two speakers that you referred to are both very accomplished in their own fields. And I think there is, for me personally, there was always that tension between being a parent and being a career-focused female. And so I really had to navigate that. And I did that with the support of my family, my husband. I don't think anyone can do it on their own. Good secretaries, good office staff. So it's a village to create the life that you have. I don't think anybody can do it on their own.
When I was looking at your profile, ma'am Vicki, you had started your career as a political reporter.
I did.
Political reporter in Australian Broadcasting Corporation, almost for 9 years, 1988 onwards, I think you started. And then you moved on to Chief of Staff of the South Australian government. Then you moved on to government levels. And then now you are the head of a group of 8 universities. So when in this demanding growth, because every change that you make in your career is getting more demanding and demanding, I'm sure. So in this demanding world of higher education policy and leadership, how do you protect your own emotional and mental well-being? How do you protect? Because every now and then you will get an email, somebody will come and knock your door, somebody will say, I have this issue, this thing. So how do you, for your own thing?
It happens a lot, and it is. I would change the word from demanding to challenging, because I think with challenges, the flip side of challenges are opportunities. And in every career I've had, and I've had several as I've moved through, which have not really been part of a plan, can I say? They've just kind of happened, but they all seem as a natural plan now I look back on it. I think the thing that has kept me, at least, protecting my own emotional and mental well-being is staying very grounded and keeping my focus on what really matters and reminding myself why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, life is very short. We are here for a very short period of time. I think you have to not take yourself too seriously. I have learnt that over the years. And unless I'm a medical doctor, which I'm not saving lives here. I always think that you've got to put things into perspective around what you're doing. And when the world around you can seem overwhelming and almost insurmountable, just some perspective and keeping your focus on what truly matters. And for me, what truly matters is my family and my friendships and my own self. Now, that's not to say that sometimes that is very hard to achieve. I'm not sitting here saying that's an easy thing to do, but I remind myself that life is short. Leadership comes with its share of wins and losses, compromise. And I think, I take time to reflect on the incredible opportunities that I've had, and that those demands become challenges, become opportunities. And I try and stay very connected to the world that I'm living in, because there's nothing, I think, more grounding than realizing that you are very, very fortunate to, one, have the life you have, in my case, live where I live and have what I have in this wonderful country where I live. And that just reminds you sometimes of the bigger things. So you're staying mindful of the global events that are around you, puts your tiny little bit of the world into perspective.
Very deeply said, ma'am. Just a quick, my personal observation at the background of your wall, that
Yes.
you have 3 dresses there. What is that?
So they encapsulate 2 loves of mine: travel and dresses. And they are maps. They're dresses, but they're maps of New York, Paris, and London. And they're by a French. They're actually maps of the underground in London, the metro in Paris, and the subway in New York. But I love dresses and I love travel. And there's a fantastic designer in Paris who managed to encapsulate 2 of my great loves.
So you have converted those boring maps into these beautiful dresses, and it reminds you of those 3 places. Maybe it is attached to you more closely. So I made it very beautiful. Do you have a personal routine, habit, or mindset that keeps you anchored in joy despite external pressures? I have observed some people, they play the music on their office while they are talking. A light music is going on. Some people have aroma of perfumes all across in the room. Even in tough meetings, they say intensify the pressures or the release of the aroma. Is there anything that you do, a routine?
I laugh a lot, and I laugh sometimes on the inside, sometimes on the inside, but I laugh a lot. I'm not afraid to cry. I think both are great release valves at the appropriate time. Both come to me very spontaneously on different occasions. I try not to take myself too seriously. I am very replaceable in an organizational sense. So really the only people I need to show up for are those that matter the most. I can be replaced in my business. There are many, many good people around me. My personal motto is one from my mother, and that was that something will happen. And do you know what? It always does. It sounds so simple, but there's a lot that sits behind those 3 words, because something will happen. And when it does, you will manage it, you will deal with it, you will react, you will respond. And I guess the sentiment is not to dwell, but to deal with the what is, not the what if. So for me, when things can seem a little overwhelming, I just remind myself that something will happen here. In terms of a routine or a habit, I'm definitely a morning person, and that's another trait. Definitely a morning person.
At what
That's
time
another.
you wake up? At what time you wake up?
I wake up somewhere
5,
between 5
4?
and 6 a.m.
Okay, 5 and 6.
and I have a lot of energy at that time of the morning. I think that was grounded from my childhood. My household always felt very full and loud in a very good way. And I think the dawn of a new day brings with it so much potential and promise. So I love the peacefulness of that sunrise. I love the closure of a sunset. I love clouds, which is a good thing because I fly so often. But I do remember as a little girl sitting on our porch and staring up for hours at fluffy white clouds. So I embrace the mornings as a lifelong habit, and I sing. Singing brings me so much joy, and it's a fundamental part of who I am. So I will often put my headphones in and go for a walk early in the morning, and I will sing. I don't know what people around me think, but I will sing out loud. And as I've got older, I feel more emboldened to be able to do that. And so I've sung in some strange places, walking the streets of Paris, walking the streets of Brussels, walking the streets of Delhi, and I just sing, and it makes me happy. And I think it makes other people happy because they may be laughing at me, but it brings me joy.
There's such a contrast that I'm just thinking in my mind right now by listening to you, that you say when you walk, you go for a walk or run with the phone. So in another podcast that I had with the person who makes walk phones, the one who makes entertainment channels, the president of that company, he said, whenever I walk without the phones. No phone, no headphone. I am done with that. So I don't want to use it. So then I asked one of the person from SpaceX. He's the person who is like propulsion scientist in SpaceX, and he's the Indian in SpaceX with Elon Musk. So he said, when I joined SpaceX, so I was my routine was my passion was I want to buy the best cars, sports car, and the best bikes. I used to go for ride only my bikes. But now, after many years of working, I hate those bikes and hate those cars. I sold them off, and I put that money in an NGO for education of girls. Now,
what a fantastic gave back.
I go to NGO, I teach them. This is my routine. Which is fantastic. Such a big contrast. I'm observing different people and different ways how they express the routine. Who or what has been your greatest source of personal happiness throughout your journey as a leader? Some people have a family member, some people have a friend, some people even have a dog for 10 years, 15 years. I don't know what keeps you strong and from where you keep extracting it as a person.
That's a very easy question for me. It's my mother and my sister, who have since passed, but without a doubt, both personally and professionally, and for very different reasons. My mother was a foster child. She had a very difficult and poor childhood, and she was denied the opportunity of an education. But together with my father, she ensured that I not only finished high school, which was very unusual in the context of my own upbringing in public housing, but that I went to university. And that's just the greatest gift that she could have given me. My mother's own life and the things that she endured could have meant that she was a very bitter woman, but she deliberately chose happiness and joy with intention. And, you know, she had the most wonderful, joyous laugh and the warmest hugs. So that deliberate intent to choose to be happy and not be consumed by unhappiness, I found has given me strength. And then my sister, she passed away when she was 56, and she had cerebral palsy, and she was totally reliant on my mother for all her needs. And she just blessed us with her presence. She was deaf, she could not walk, and she could not speak. but she had the most beautiful laugh and these beautiful eyes that followed you around a room everywhere. And she made everyone else smile. And I was so privileged to be her little sister. And she laughed at the smallest things. And so she taught me that it's simplicity, it's the simplicity of life where the greatest joys are to be found, not the materialistic things, not the big things, because she could laugh at the smallest of things. And I think for me that the influence of both these women has been, it's profound and deep. And it's certainly shaped the mother I am, the wife I am, the sister I am, the leader I am. Happiness is a choice. It comes in moments. And for some, those moments are very difficult. They may be very small and hard fought for, but fight for them you must. And I have taken that from, as a personal inspiration, but also into my professional life. So I've been absolutely fortunate to have those two women in my life as very strong influences and role models.
A question was asked to Indra Nui in a public gathering by an interviewer, and a question was asked, what are your top 10 priorities in your life? Top 10 priority in your life. Indra Nui.
Top 10.
Top 10 priorities in your life. So she said Pepsi. Number 1, 2, 3. Then she said my father-in-law, my mother-in-law. Then she went on to my mother and father, kids, and then the husband at the 10 number. So husband was sitting next to her only in that meeting, in the panel discussion. So immediately the husband popped out and he said, you see, she had kept me at the 10th of the priority of her list. So Indra Nui laughed a lot because you said you laugh a lot and family and this. So he said I want to clarify my 10 priorities because you can understand my 10 priorities from a negative mind or a positive mind, means or a understanding mind or a like other kind of a mind. So she said either you can be unhappy if you think you are on the bottom of the list, or you can be happy that you are on my list.
That's very true. He made the list, right?
He made the list. He said, I am a president, I am the CEO, so I have to commit more time to Pepsi. So 1, 2, 3 has to be number 1. Then I have my father-in-law because I stay with them. So I have next priority. My mother, father, little far away from them. So for them. Then comes children. And she said one more thing, my husband is my second child, kind of a thing. She is an adult child. I have to treat him like a child only because he also throws tantrums. So
I'm very lucky. I have a husband who is my absolute support mechanism. And so he would be up the top of my list.
Right. So the thing that I was trying to emphasize is like she can, what you just said, similarly, she said, laughter could be managed at each moment, how you understand the things from a positive side or a negative side. So those who laugh, they can always be positive in each movement. Whatever happens, make the best of that. That's all.
That's, two sides of a coin.
Thank you so much for this first section that we are just done with the personal level of happiness. And we have got some insights of your, and we will move on to the next section is organizational happiness, organizational well-being. Idea being this, we believe happiness and well-being cannot be bottom-up approach in organization. At individual level, whatever I want, whatever you want at individual level, you can do, I can do on my own. But in the organizational level, some other meaning comes up. How it could be done. So, and this could be done only a top-down approach. Only a leader can make a policy, only leader can set the momentum on in the organization, a kind of a culture, a kind of something which can be imbibed at every last mile of the organization. So this is the perspective that we will touch on this part. So in your leadership role with group of 8 universities, how do you define that happiness, well-being is flourishing in all the 8 institutions that you are managing and also your GO8 office?
So I would challenge the assertion that it comes from the top down.
One second. Can you just also just say our audience to understand the group of 8 universities, what it manages, so that they also understand that a little bit about group of 8 universities?
Sure. So the group of 8 universities are the 8 top globally ranked universities in Australia. We all rank in the top 100, with many of us in the top 50 universities in Australia. We are big, large, comprehensive universities, and we are located in every state of Australia. Our, I guess, commonality is our research intensivity across Australia and more broadly. We do around 70% of Australia's university-based research. So we have a very high profile of postgraduate and PhD students, but a very high profile of number of undergraduate students. And we are big international universities as well. So we have quite a diverse student cohort on our universities. And each of our universities are quite different and diverse, but there is a common thread, I guess, of our mission and our purpose. And then the group of 8 is the company that I run, which serves that group of universities and acts as the interface to government and to both domestically and internationally. And I have a small, fantastic team located in our national capital, of which I am very privileged to be the chief executive of.
How do you have a benchmark? Now my GO8 office and universities have managed to be happiness, well-being, flourishing this.
So I think because I work in the university sector, there is just a great sense of purpose, and there is a bottom-up approach, as we know, particularly with academics and research. I am yet to visit a university in Australia or internationally where you don't feel that energy and that promise of potential. I recall visiting Delhi University in 2017, and we were accompanied by one of our great cricketers and education ambassadors, Adam Gilchrist. He came from a family where his parents were teachers, so education was very important to him. Now, the excitement and happiness amongst the students and faculty were palpable, not just because he was a great cricketer, but because he actually believed in education. And I've also had the privilege of hosting a meeting between our Indian PhD students and the Indian Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, at UNSW in Sydney. Every one of those researchers who are at our universities, they are working to ensure that the research they do will make a difference. It'll have impact. They were truly inspirational. And then I thought about a university I visited in South Africa, in Durban, many, many years ago, probably more than 20 years ago, where the external challenges of a post-apartheid South Africa were very evident. But within the walls of that university were the faculty and students who were working to make not only their lives better, but to impact the communities and regions around them. And so when you're working in that environment with those institutions, and certainly my own institutions, each and every day, our students and our staff show up, and they show up to better themselves, to better our cities, our towns, our regions, and the globe. And so I think a happy and flourishing academic institution is driven by the faculty and the students. And so I think we are different to, say, a corporation in that sense. Of course, leadership has to come from the top. Of course it does. But I think they are the inspiration. I think there's a bit of a meeting in the middle from top down and bottom up in universities, which makes us very distinctive from perhaps the corporate world, which is, I think, fantastic. And perhaps the corporate world could learn something of that. Our inspiration are our people. And, you only have to walk through a university on graduation day to see the joy and happiness in the faces of not only students, but of the family, be they the families who've supported them, whether they're from India or China or from the suburb 3 kilometres away. I think for every one student success story, there is a network of people who have supported that student, including faculty, including researchers, including academics. and we all share in that success. So, you know, it's almost a contagion, right? It's contagious, that inspiration. And I think the times are so challenging at the moment. We are living in such a contested world where disagreement is sometimes amplified as discontent. It's not, and we have to learn to disagree well with evidence and conviction. And we also have to be willing to challenge our own assumptions. And I think an academic institution which encourages that, which nurtures that guides that provides a place for academic freedom and free speech in a way in which ideas and viewpoints are contested respectfully, is a sign of a flourishing university. And then if I bring it down to the level of my own organisation, you know, we are also working in a very contested political environment. And sometimes it's really difficult and you lose sight of happiness as being a goal. But what is a touch point for me is to remember, and just to walk through a university campus to remind me of what we're actually doing here. We are improving the lives of people, and therefore we're improving the lives of our society, our economy, etc. And so reminding yourself of your own purpose, and it goes back to my earlier comment, I think, Professor, about doing things with intention and thinking about what you're doing, responding, not reacting all the time. Is really important. So for me, I think the success of our institutions is what drives that happiness and that joy in everything that we do.
One thing I must appreciate, you have listed many podcasts are there, which you yourself lead from the front. And I have observed you have been inviting vice chancellors, professors, talking about their research and all. Just wanted to compliment you one thing, because I have not seen in many countries somebody who is interviewing. There is a mechanism in a country of academics where somebody is inviting the vice chancellors and talking, and the professors talking on their research.
Thank you. And the other thing that I try and do in that podcast is try and understand the journey of the person. Like how did you become who you are? Because their stories are always inspirational, that they are now running what are globally ranked institutions, multi-billion-dollar organizations in this country, and many come from very humble beginnings. And I think that provides an inspiration for people to believe and to really believe that anybody can do anything if you actually put your mind to it. And so part of the journey in doing the podcast is to get behind the person, because often you only see them in the senior leadership roles, of course, that we see them in.
So when we meet a top leader, we just see we are talking to a title or a chair. But somehow when we go deeper into a person as a human being, then a real human comes out. A holistic personality, a holistic perception is being revealed to us, kind of a thing. So employee also thinks our top person is a human being. Otherwise, people think they are just perfect people and they are the one who just know everything, and they have no pain, they have no misery in their life, and they are just all yes, all happy. The podcast theme was Beyond Rankings, the Heart of Education and Human Flourishing. And this is first time we thought every organization is working to achieve accreditations or kind of a good ranking, whether it is QS rankings, whether it is other kind of rankings are going on. There is a proverb goes something like that: if the employee is happy only at the time of salary credit and not on the other days, something has to be done about the culture of that company. Similarly, on this sector of education, if people are happy only in the graduation ceremony after 4 years, 2 years, but not on a daily basis or a frequent basis where there is a feeling of bonding or belongingness, whichever Honorable Chancellor Sir Dr. Atul Chauhan Sir promotes. He says that belongingness should be visible every day, every moment among the employees. They should support each other, they should work with each other, and we should not just see happiness only in the last outcome day. So how do you see this? in the research intensive universities.
Very true. And I think, rigorous research and emotional well-being and competition are not mutually exclusive. I think, our research intensive universities are engines of innovation and global impact, but they're also communities. They're made up of people. To your point about, the top leaders, they're just people. We're all just people. And whether it's students, researchers, educators, staff, each have their own emotional lives, their aspirations and their vulnerabilities. So I do think we have a role as big institutions to nurture excellence and also well-being. And that's not to say that we don't keep our eye also on the outcomes, because of course we are also here to, ensure that our graduates have a great experience and they get a great job and all of those sorts of things. But I think I've seen firsthand how performance and emotional care can coexist. When we support, for example, our researchers, not just as producers of knowledge, but as whole people, when we have genuine mentorship and community engagement, when we can create environments where brilliance is celebrated. And I think that's the wonderful, unique thing about universities, because it usually is. And I think a flourishing university isn't just one that ranks highly. I think, to your point, beyond rankings, I think it's one where international students feel at home, where staff are empowered to be part of the institution. There's so many bits to our institutions because we're very complex. So I do think that research universities can and should be emotionally nurturing, because when people feel safe and valued and inspired, that's when they do their best work. And I think that's the kind of excellence we should be striving for, because in a way, if we get the mechanics of that right, the outcome will be the best research and we will get those rankings. So rather than that making it the kind of the goal, it's the runway to that, if that makes sense, that just by being and doing, we will achieve that. And I think you're right, that's where the leadership, that company culture, that university culture does come from our leadership. And I think ensuring that our faculty and our staff know that there are wraparound services for them and that there is support for them. So I think, there's never a simple answer, unfortunately. I think it is complex, because we are complex institutions. We're dealing with young people, and it's a very tough time for young people at the moment. But we're also dealing with, I think, the most important thing that we can in this world is educate and give people that thirst for knowledge. And I'd like to think that we can coexist beyond the rankings in that way.
You just spoke a little bit before that also. Okay, you said something that both of us are doing something similar in this domain of interacting with the global leaders and knowing their human side. So I have one quick idea just came to my mind, which I heard somewhere also. Okay, if there is any problem in the society, so there is a problem of who will solve it, who will do it, kind of a thing. So the idea came was that each student should enter into a university with an idea to solve a problem. At the interview time only, we should be asking them, or we should be ensuring, have you got any problem of the community that you want to solve in this program that you want to enroll? So if they are being encouraged or nurtured at the very entry point, so chances for researchers to become researchers become very high, because out of 100, one becomes a researcher. Out of thousands, maybe one got maybe out of millions, one got Nobel Prize. So there was a maths Nobel laureate. He said, if there was no award given for a Nobel Prize, we would not have worked for the maths problem. Because maths is boring. Maths is so boring. It's numbers. It's numbers. There is no music in that. It is just into the head only. They are thinking only. So they said that the prize attracts us to do something. And on a lighter note, maybe you must be aware, the person who made the bulb, Edison, right?
Mm.
And the story goes like that, out of many failures in inventing the bulb, at night 2 o'clock, his bulb uh, blinked, started, or you can say bloomed. And
Yeah.
can you believe, once the bulb get on, what was the first comment given by the family member at night 2 o'clock? And the comment given was that, what is this light? Put it off. I am sleeping. Just put it off. And the scientist said, "Ke you don't know that there is a light for the world now."
Mm.
So something is like, people don't value the research people because a lot of hard work is there, a lot of pain is there, a lot of sacrifice is there, a lot of tears are involved. So how to ensure that those who are non-research people, just because I think the hurdle is the pain capacity, they give up very fast. Those who are non-researchers, they don't know how to handle their emotions. They don't know how to handle the loneliness of being a researcher, or how to work in scarce resources. So is there any policy, or like, to encourage non-researchers, or some practices, that how to embed happiness and harmony across campuses for non-researchers, because they are not able to come up with a new idea?
It's very interesting, your summary there, and I laugh because my very capable deputy chief executive is a PhD in pure mathematics, and the day that he can describe to me what that actually is will be a light bulb moment for me. So thank you for raising that. And it's interesting, isn't it, that we often celebrate the win and the outcome when really the journey to that has taken years and years and years, but we only celebrate the end bit. So I think, look, not everyone should be a researcher, and that we need people to do research, but we also need people to do the teaching and other things. So I think having mutual respect and regard for each other, which we do in universities, right? I think we're such a great little test case for how things should run so well. In terms of policies or practices that we can adopt, not just in terms of that connectivity between non-researchers and researchers, but just in terms of how we operate in our society, I think we need to ensure that we can disagree well, but we also have to learn to listen. And I wonder whether we're losing the art of actually listening. And, it seems to be in very short supply, or there is a pull to hear only the loudest voices. So I think the first thing that we have to do for all of us is learn or relearn to listen. And I think emotional well-being, it's closely tied to being seen, heard, and valued. So as a researcher, as a non-researcher, as a professional staff member of faculty, or as a student, whether it's in life, in our universities, or in our workplace. And I think, so that's the second point. The third one, I think, is a culture of collaboration, not competition. Easier said than done. I think we are naturally competitive, but ensuring a collaborative focus and a recognition of that diversity on our campuses, I think, helps build a more emotionally supportive space. And I know a lot of effort goes into those kind of points, I guess, into our universities, particularly for our students. If I think about university orientation weeks, for example, and supporting our researchers, I think you've raised a really interesting point, though, about the value of research, and do we as a society value the research, or do we value the output? And I think researchers can feel very undervalued, because I think as a society we value the output and not the effort that's gone into that. And so I think there's a role for our universities, particularly research-intensive universities like the ones that I represent, to really think about the emotional well-being of our researchers, because it can be a very lonely pursuit, as you've identified.
Like we say, in an organization, we say, out of 100 employees, 5 are top performers, and bottom 5 are somehow who are on the verge of being non-performers, or you can say they need to be not in the company. But majority is the middle layer. So the dilemma comes in the eyes of the boss is, because the top performer somehow becomes you can say an inspiration for some middle people, and some people say it becomes a threat for the middle people. This is a different perspective from different people. Okay, because those who are in the middle one, they are you can say they are non-willing to take that extra mile or extra effort what is being done by the star performer. Star performer might have some being lucky in few areas of their life. Maybe health is okay, family okay, maybe some education okay. That combination gives them an edge, which the other people might not be having, struggling with. So, is there any, ma'am, like you have been heading all the 8 top universities in Australia. So, have you seen any university, any global model, or not in Australia, maybe anywhere, where students' well-being is deeply integrated into success of institutions? Okay, if it's like we say Amity and happy, happy Amity. So, is there any something like you have come across any on-ground model?
Look, there are many examples, and I think it's important to understand, and I'm sure this audience does, that one size does not fit all. So just as we have diversity in our faculty and students, so too we have diverse institutions. So different things will work in different contexts. I think the best universities have embedded mentorship, mental health support, and inclusiveness into their core operations, and I think that's true for the universities I represent. But I think we also need to be realistic. You know, there are many studies which indicate that particularly our younger generation have greater feelings of isolation and loneliness, and which is kind of counterintuitive in what is a hyper-connected world. But I think it's that over-connectivity which has led to that isolation. So these issues are really challenging, and certainly in the Australian context, and I'm sure it's global, mental health issues for our younger generation, sadly, is on the increase. So many of our universities and some very good examples are putting in place programs around mental health champions, you know, to promote early help. The University of Melbourne has undertaken a very large university student wellbeing survey, over 10,000 responses, and it found a very strong link between wellbeing, retention, and academic performance. Now that sounds really obvious, right? But what it's done is it's provided a national baseline, and then it's identified institutional and academic factors which influence some of those things. And then it has embedded that into curriculum design, perhaps redesigning where that embeds wellbeing principles into teaching and assessment, maybe a little bit like you're doing at Amity in terms of that happiness being embedded in undergraduate and postgraduate. It's also become part of, for several universities in Australia, part of the wellbeing metrics, which are being integrated into strategic KPIs and institutional dashboards. So there's accountability. Let's not just talk about this as something that's nice to do, but let's put this in as a key metric. So we have annual wellbeing audits. And I think that then puts the onus on senior leadership, to your point. Not everyone can be the leader or should be the leader. In fact, a very good leader should surround themselves with people who know much more than they do, because you learn from, I think, from the people around you. You do not know everything. And so putting in place those mechanisms which hold you accountable as a leader are very important. And I know that in the Australian context, that is working. It's driven out of the University of Melbourne, but they've rolled that program out to 13 universities across Australia. And it's working very well, but it's not set and forget. It's not, well, we've done that, so we'll leave that, because students' needs will change, faculty's needs will change. So we have to evolve. And as I said, one size doesn't fit all, but I think that's a very good example of where there's a recognition of the challenges and an understanding we need to embed it into curricula, and we need to measure success.
So are those KPIs like publicly shared, or like any practices being shared or can we also see as a outsider as other universities, or it is privately placed?
No, I think for most of our universities, they are shared as part of their strategic key performance indicators, and the measurements and how they are measuring may not be shared particularly in a public way, but they're certainly shared between institutions, because you can think you're doing a good job, but it's always good to benchmark yourself against your collaborators and competitors, as we do in Australia. But the annual wellbeing audits are also included in annual reports, and they are public documents.
So since you have been into the system for many years, and I think you have renewed your position for chief executive for multiple times, if I'm right.
Yes.
So you have been in the system of universities for long. So is there any way where if we want to join hands with the movement of well-being in Australian education, is there anything that you see that it is possible in this, where in this small manner or this big manner, or like how is it possible?
Is it possible for us to join with you?
Means the initiatives of both the countries can join hands and make it more bigger one.
Absolutely. And I think that goes absolutely, because I think what I was saying earlier about the little building blocks that you make from making your bed when you wake up to the, that's the same thing, right? It's like, exactly, it's the building blocks. You bite off what you can chew and then you build. And I know from our Australian government's perspective, our work, particularly at the education level, and our collaboration with Indian institutions is very, very strong. But if we want happiness to be embedded and joyfulness to be embedded across our universities, as we do, and in an international scale, I think there is definitely scope to learn from each other, because nobody has the answer. No one institution or one corporation has the answer, because if we did, we wouldn't be having this podcast. We would all be happy, right? We have to constantly learn from each other. So I think that there are many opportunities, particularly, I mean, the survey I talked about out of the University of Melbourne, that surveyed 10,000 students, which in Australia is a lot. I appreciate that the Indian, I just always get blown away by the figures in India. It's so much bigger. The challenge is so much bigger, but the opportunity is bigger, right? You reach more people. So I think that there is an opportunity potentially to pick up some of the things that the University of Melbourne has done through that wellbeing program and have a look at how that could be used in context. And I think that's really important, because every institution will have a different context. Those feelings of isolation and others will be driven by different factors, and different, student well-being will be driven by different factors. But I think there is an underlying mission. So it's not just about ticking boxes and performance metrics, that we can learn from one another.
So like ideas could go from level of like happiness tours or exchange programs, some kind of a thing, which is not just for research, but for becoming more sensitive to each other culture.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if that could be planned, it would be a great initial steps that we can plan, whether online we do something, whether we do offline. Already our students of Amity, they travel to Australia and UK and US and Singapore and different countries they travel. So this was the first thought process. They should be sensitive to culture of different countries. But more deeper efforts have to be done so that students and community and the faculty, they make an impact, because travel is one step. After travel, exposure is the next step. Third step is the impact, because happiness is basically a transformational experience, or for a community, for a society, for a university. So unless the impact is visible, that is what outcome, one meaning is there. But then if two steps are okay, is done already by your organization, your universities and Indian universities also. Third level needs more hand holding and more commitment, long-term commitment required. So maybe we can think on that also with time. Thank you so much. Let's move on with the third section. Thank you so much for taking all the queries with so gentle approach. Thank you so much so far. Okay, so third section that we are moving on is spirituality section in education. Ma'am, you often speak of going beyond rankings. Do you feel modern education is ready to embrace spiritual intelligence? Emotion is required for many things. Physical intelligence is fitness and all the things. What about the higher level of spiritual intelligence? Are students, faculty ready for that?
I think it's very difficult, and I think spirituality can mean different things to different people. So I'm cautious about a one-size-fits-all model, or a model where we can accommodate everyone's spirituality in a truly meaningful manner, because it's very personal as well. But that said, if we take spiritual intelligence in education to mean the capacity to finding meaning and purpose in life and learning, to act with compassion, with integrity, with wisdom, to connect our values beyond material success, then yes, I think not only do I think there is room for it, I think there must be room for it. I think where the challenge is, if I'm being very honest with you, is that I think it requires a shift in academic culture, because we have a very traditional focus in academia on evidence-based data, metrics, and hard evidence and the like. So for institutions to embrace meaning and purpose and inner growth, I think that is a very challenging environment for us to be in. But doing so, we would better equip our students, particularly in what is a very complex, uncertain world. So do I think we're ready to embrace it? I think we must. I think it requires a cultural shift. And I think part of, you referred to it earlier, Professor, around culture. Part of the challenge is that we live in this beautifully complex, confused world of different cultures, and we have to learn to be able to embrace that. And I think for us to do that, that's where I love our international education sector, because we move through cultures and borders become less hard, if you like. And to take the time to actually embrace our international students and their wisdom and their integrity, and to support that, I think helps build, if you like, that spiritual intelligence that you refer to. So I think that we're ready to. I think doing it is a lot more challenging.
You gave me a very unique word or a phrase just now while you were saying. You said we are living in a beautifully confused culture. That is a wonderful phrase. I will never forget it from now onwards. Okay, how much complex, instead of saying we are living in a complex world and other VUCA world, you have a beautiful phrase, a beautifully confused culture. What to do, we don't know. What's happening, we don't know sometimes. But then the level of intelligence only can handle all those things together. That's all.
Exactly.
Universities of future, they are being perceived as a new football ground or a new place for getting a partner for marriage in future. So everything is going online, everything is going digitally. So just like God has gone digital, all philosophies have gone digital. Do you think universities can be a places of spiritual exploration, friendship, purpose, compassion? Can they be nurtured without religious tinge and keeping it borderless, keeping it beyond the borders?
Absolutely. I think we can be powerful places for spiritual exploration, especially when it's understood not in religious terms, as you say, but as a pursuit for purpose, compassion, connection, and inner growth. And what better time in your life to do that than as a young person, when you have the lovely luxury of time to do that? Because once you're in that workforce and you're becoming a parent and you're doing all the things that you do in life, it becomes so busy that sometimes we don't stop rather to pause and reflect. So I think if anywhere that you're going to actually be powerful places for spiritual exploration, it can be universities. And I think we have a role, and many of my universities are doing this, but frankly, it should probably start back in school years as well, to help students explore why they learn, not just what they learn. And I think you talked about that digital environment we're in. AI may take over what they learn, but I don't believe it can ever take over why you learn. That pursuit of knowledge, the art of curiosity, the same curiosity I had as a child, and many of us have. And so in that world, which is certainly marked by beautiful confusion, rapid change, students, I think, are seeking more than just credentials. In fact, that's probably the easy bit. They're seeking meaning, they're seeking belonging, and I think more so now than even, 2 decades ago. So I think universities that can embrace that can become transformative spaces, not just educational ones. But I also think there is a role in the school system, particularly here in Australia, to help guide that student to be open to that, not just I've got to go to university, I have to get a degree, I have to get a job, I have to earn a good income. That gives you no space. And that's, I see that with some sadness sometimes, where I say kids, but young 20-year-olds who are just running, and it's like, where are you running to? What are you running for? Take some time to pause and reflect. It's advice that you can give when you're older, of course, but that's the role I think we can play as universities. The why, not just the what.
Spirituality perspective, we say people are fighting not because they want to fight. It is that the purpose of each other make them fight. So if different communities have a different purpose, different university, different purposes, and they stick with the purpose, which is non-spiritual, the fighting is by default. It will happen. Yeah. So I was just wondering, I have heard of various legal cases happening in different companies and different universities. One of our podcast was also Vice President Legal of Kotak Mahindra Bank. So she gave us some insight that the latest case has come. A student in a university, the policy was this, that no one will use AI for making the assignments. So ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok, nobody will use for making the assignments. But one of the student put up a case against the professor because his notes were made using AI. So, and the student won the case against the professor. I think it was a case in US or some other country. So this is happening. So again, the teacher you should not do it, but he himself is doing it. So, and so when a student does it for the first time, can they be compassionate, or they can be rude, or they can be hard? Means policy, that's all. Is it possible to be compassionate in small cases which we see as a faculty and we read, okay, what is happening, okay, he should be forgiven, but it is not forgiven? Possible? Is it possible in small cases, or only in big cases no forgiveness? But let us understand, okay, they are growing to learn. Let us learn to use AI for a bigger thing. Can AI be used as a compassion tool for somebody who cannot think faster?
Oh, it's a good question. First of all, AI is here, right? So there's no point, right, saying don't use it, because it's here. And I'm a little bit old-fashioned myself, and I'm just grappling with it. So I can understand in many ways our students can teach us, right, how to use it. So I think I think that student had a very good case and should be treated with compassion, because at the end of the day, we are now on this journey, whether we like it or not. And AI, as I say, can teach you a lot of things, but it can't really teach you, I don't believe, why you're doing something, and to reflect and question why you're doing something. The how and the what, absolutely. So I think that student was good to take that case up and very bravely take that case against his academic supervisor in that case. We're in this world now and we can't ignore it. So it's time to adopt it, but adopt it in a safe way. I think that's what's important, the way we do it.
Have you encountered any resistance while bringing this idea of human flourishing into academic policy discussions?
Not so much from universities, but definitely from external forces. There is a very strong debate in Australia now about the role of our universities to make our students job ready. And it's
Yes.
a term I don't like. I would argue that our role is to make sure they're career ready, which is different. Of course, we need to ensure a qualification provides the technical skills they might need to be a doctor or an engineer or a musician, whatever it might be. But career ready actually means that we have graduates who are flexible, adaptable, have critical thinking skills, can show up to an interview in person and actually do that interview, be prepared for the twists and turns of life. It's not a linear pathway. We all know that. I like to think of life as a tree with many branches, and some are stronger than others and some blow in the breeze and fall off. We've got to teach people to be able to climb that tree back again, climb back up that tree. And I think the challenge we've got in the Australian context is that our policymakers are often driven by short-term political outcomes of a 3 or 4 year political cycle. And so they're looking for very easy, quick wins. And of course, life's not about quick, easy wins, right? Life's about, the long term, and we need good policies that look to the long term. And so I think the resistance comes from external forces, and then the challenge is how do we respond to them? And that really is a big part of my job, is how do we respond with our lawmakers and our governments to weigh up what is a political outcome, but what is also in the best interest of our students and of our faculty. And sometimes that balance is quite challenging. And, we need to remind ourselves and our communities that universities have such a big role to play. We're not degree factories. We're not here to be job ready. We're here to make sure that we have graduates who are career ready and who are nimble and are well-rounded to the point of this discussion, in terms of your mental health, your physical health, your spiritual health, and your intellectual ability. And so I think that's the challenge that we have in dealing with our external forces.
So there is a big debate also going on in different countries, this concept of job ready versus career ready. Those universities who, like, the debate is like that way, the focus on career readiness focus of the different universities have created $1 billion debt among the students. So they are going with this idea of career ready, but now they are not able to fulfill the basic requirements of the normal life. They are on debt lifelong, 30 years, 40 years, they're on debt now. So maybe that would be a big debate. Yes, going in every country. In India also same situation. Even students ask the same thing. Okay, when they join admission, what is the placement? They ask in India also. Even in all countries, they want to know, if I do this program, which program will give me the ROI, the highest one. So they are choosing the program also on this perspective. Some are very specific. Okay, we want this program because I love this domain. So they are also there, but there is a large segment who are choosing the program not on their interest area, but on the area of which is highest ROI coming up. So they will learn some certificate courses and all that to add on to the degree program that they are enrolling. They will do it. So it's a big debate going on. So same way, okay. Now a little universal question, based on your whole experience all across. If you were to envision a university of a future, how would it balance intellect and inner well-being? Means what kind of thing you would like to embed in that university which can balance both the intellect and the inner well-being? What will you do? if you are the
Well,
vice university?
I think everyone should do yoga and meditation, but apart from that,
Okay.
Seriously, I think in many cases we have the universities of the future here right now. I mean, the
Okay.
institutions that I lead are working toward that balance as mutually reinforcing pillars of our lives. It's an evolving, it's evolving.
If you can give those elements, if you can give those elements, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, if possible.
I think good leadership is important, and it sounds very obvious, but leadership which is embracing and collaborative. I do think that there needs to be. I like your idea of embedding happiness into undergraduate and postgraduate programs, and so that's something that I would like to think about talking to my own universities about. So it's not just something that's measurable, and I think universities that embrace diversity, and we have that. We do have that. So I'm not skipping your answer, but I genuinely think that in many ways the universities are here doing that. There's no magic bullet to what makes us balancing intellect and inner well-being, because I think we are doing that. But if I was to be flippant, I would say, and many of us do that, and I know my own team, we used to do yoga ourselves. A joint yoga and meditation session is always very grounding for everybody, and I love the idea of embedding that into our institutions.
So yoga at individual level is okay, is very much feasible, but at a mass level, like India was successful in getting the yes from all the countries for celebrating the International Yoga Day. That whenever Prime Minister Modi, for the first time when he joined as a PM of the country, he ensured that he will join all the countries at least on the one point, and that point was yoga and well-being only. This is how all countries said yes for the first time, at least for one UN resolution that happened. Yes, you also just said it, is happiness measurable? Something is there. Yes, I have heard of various researches which is coming up that there are some elements in the part of the brain which lights up if somebody is happy, and even those who are enlightened, I have observed their brains are also measured, and they have observed specific signs. There are some organs in the part of the brain which will light up. So there are some receptors in the brain. Suppose if you are happy, if suppose you have a candle in your hand and that candle represents your level of happiness, and if somebody who is enlightened, imagine his happiness like a sun. So the absorption of the light of a candle, you don't require blinking of eyes, but to see the sun from the front, we might not see that. Same with the brain. So if a person who is less happy, those organs in the brains are non-functional. Somebody who is enlightened, or you can say spiritual, or too happy, those organs have to receive those happiness, because it's a neural phenomena also, kind of a thing. So anything which is spiritual will become neural phenomena by default. So those brain will be showing some symptoms, and those who are neuroscientist people, they can always measure that. Okay, now we are going to the wonderful round of cool fire round. Now long questions are gone. Now very sweet questions and one-line questions would be coming up, and then you are requested to just have a as short and precise answer for those questions. Are you ready, Vicki ma'am?
I am ready.
You want to take a break? You want to see the map of the Paris and New York and go back stand up?
No, I can see them. They're looking wonderful.
First one, if happiness was a course at a university, what would you name it?
I would name it The Science and Soul of Happiness, Cultivating Joy from the Inside Out.
What's the most unrankable joy in your life?
There are many, but if I can only choose a couple, it would probably be listening to music, my family, I'm choosing more than two here, and definitely being by the ocean.
By the ocean. Which leadership trait do you think needs to be taught with laughter only?
I think humility. I think we need to be able to laugh at ourselves. So maybe humility, because I do work with incredibly smart people who have very healthy egos. And so a dose of humility and laughter would work very well.
The Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos, he is known in his organization that whenever he enters a meeting room, he has a wild laughter, and then only he's known that he's arrived. And I remember still one of my first university boss when I was somewhere in another university. He was a brigadier in army, and he was our director also. So I asked him, sir, I'm 21 and you are almost 50. How come you are able to manage everything? Because your chair must be having a fire and you're sitting on the fire table, on the fire chair. How do you manage? He said, my laughter. If I don't laugh on any hour or any day, understand I'm consumed by the fire. So my laughter is my water shower on my fire role that I'm performing. One moment at work when you truly felt, this is why I do what I do.
It was a visit to the Asha Foundation in Delhi, and the story of a boy, Abhishek Hunda, and he was the first recipient of a University of Sydney scholarship. He came from the Delhi slums, and the minister, our education minister, and I was there with him. We were reduced to tears actually at this inspirational story about how education had lifted Abhishek, who was pursuing a master's, I think a master's of management, and he credited that program for transforming his life. And in the face of such adversity, it was truly, this is why we do what we do, because we can take a boy from the Delhi slums into the Sydney University and he can pursue his dreams. And that was a goosebump moment for me.
If policy making had a theme song, what would yours be?
It would be Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie, because we are under pressure in the Australian context at the moment. So I think that would cover it off very well for me.
If you had to give an honorary degree in emotional intelligence, whom you would like to give it?
Well, it's a little cliched, but the best person that I would give it to would be Nelson Mandela, for his emotional wisdom in reconciliation and leadership, for putting the needs of others before himself, at great cost to himself, and for the amazing legacy he has left. It would be him.
What's one phrase or cliche in education you would love to retire? No, forever.
When people say we've always done it this way. So I'd love to retire that saying. People always say, we've always done it this way, so that's the way we should do it. No, we need to do things differently. So I would love to retire that, ban that saying from anybody.
Steve Jobs was asked one question. I was reading his books. So he said, a question was asked to him, how did you get to know that you have a sense to run a business? How did you know that you have this sense to run this business? He said, it doesn't need a big sense, just a one small question. You have to just ask in your processes how you do it. And if the people say, this is how we do it, then I question them. Give me the reasons why you do this way. So I don't just accept their answer. It's because they will be answering only from the perspective that this is how we do it. And he gave an example. He said, in accounts, I went and he said, why did you put the pricing in the budget of this one? He said, in accounts, there is a name called as standard costing. Standard costing means it's a wild guess about the costing of something that you want to buy, and we can adjust it later on. So then he said, why not we can know exactly what we are going to cost? Why we have to adjust inflation or some plus and minus in the end? So he said, if somebody has an eye for detail and he can measure exactly, and you can question, this is how we do it. Here is the point. Just focus only on the bullseye. So you just had that sense of Steve Jobs also just mentioned that. Thank you for making.
I'm in very good company.
Your go-to reset button when a policy meeting gets too intense.
I go back to 3 letters that my dad said to me, TLC, and I draw on the C, which is compromise. So I think about how do we get to where we need to be if it's an intense policy meeting? How do I get the outcome I need? What is the compromise that I have to make the other people feel that they have not given up too much? So I think my reset button is to think about a compromise position that will work for both of us.
Again, I'm reminding of Indra Nui button of reset. She said, whenever I am just give up with everybody in my meeting room, I just go in my cabin, I shout a lot for 3 minutes. I just throw things in my cabin, and then after 3 minutes, I comb my hair, make my lipstick on, and then come back out of the room. So she said,
it must be very therapeutic.
She said, I do catharsis a lot. That's my reset. Because
no, I don't shout a lot. I'm not that sort of person, but I haven't really been in a situation where I've had to.
Right. What's one thing about the Australian system of education the world could happily borrow?
I think it's access, that basically any student in Australia who's able to can go to our university. It's free at the point of entry, and it's available to you from whatever background you come from, whether you come from a very wealthy background or a poor background. And I think that system has been world leading, and certainly there's some problems with it now, but I think that commitment to opportunity for all is something that is real and makes a change for people.
If your leadership journey was a novel, what would be its title? You have been around for long.
This is a hard one, because there are so many parts to my journey, as there are with anyone's life. But I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I came from quite a poor background. I lived in what's called public housing here. So I thought it would be something like From the Block to the Boardroom, a journey of conviction, curiosity, and change.
If I'm observing some of your team members are also here online. So if your team from GO8 had a well-being day, what 3 fun activities would you add to their scheduled calendar?
Well, I'm not sure if they think it's fun or not, but what we do each year, because I like exercise and I like activity, and so does my my chief operating officer. So we all get together at the end of the year, and we either go mountain bike riding or kayaking or racing. And some of my team literally sometimes fall off the bike, but they get back on. And I think that's a great metaphor for life, right? You get back on that bike and you keep riding. And then we have a lunch or a dinner, and I have a deputy chief executive who's always a very good Father Christmas and takes great pleasure in roasting me and having a go at the chief executive. But it's great. I love it. I hope they do. They all show up. But so that's the team activity that we do each year.
And if you could rename your office using a happiness-related word, what would it be? Your office.
I think it would be Group of Great, as opposed to Group of 8, because I have a fantastic small team that supports me in doing the job that I do, and we do fantastic things. And I have a very diverse, I talked about diversity in terms of our universities. I too have a very diverse team who supports me, and I can only do my job because I have a good team of people behind me. So I think it would be Group of Great.
Thank you so much for taking the school fire zone. Thank you so much. And I'm sure you must have loved this new types of question being asked to you, maybe for the first time, maybe.
Very different.
We have a culture in our happiness podcast that we talk about only global leaders from different countries, different positions, different organizations. So just before you, we had the guest of honor was Mr. Sunil Dutt. He was the president of Reliance Jio. So Mr. Sunil Dutt has left one question for you, and the question was...
Sure, thank you so much. And I think, yeah, even I appreciate the fact that, something like this has been added over here. My question to Vicky would be, and since we are on the topic of happiness, why is happiness so easy to talk about and so difficult to practice?
Miss Vicky, this is the question for you from Mr. Sunil Dutt, the president of Reliance Jio Infocom India, and he looks for an answer from your perspective, a leader to leader answer. I am just a conduit, a nimitt matra.
So talking about it is easy and it's safe because we all want to be happy, right? And it's often an expectation, which I think makes it even harder to achieve. But practicing it requires a very deliberate intention, as I said earlier in the podcast. A choice, it's a choice to embrace happiness, even in the face of adversity and challenge. And in choosing happiness, it means you have to let go of anger and putting yourself in a different person's shoes. And I think physiologically, we're wired for flight or fight. So where does happiness sit within that natural adrenaline response when we're actually wired for survival? And so I think, I read a great book called The Happiness Trap, and it talked about this expectation that everybody should be happy, when actually we're not wired necessarily just to be happy, because we are fight or flight. We have to make that choice. So I think that's why it's so easy to talk about, because that's the expectation. It's difficult to practice because we have to intentionally choose happiness over other things. And, I'm happy to say that mostly the people that I interact with and myself, I choose happiness. But that's not to say that at times it's not hard.
Thank you. Your answer I will convey to Sunil Dutt also, sir. Sunil sir, now here is the answer given by Vicki Thomson to your question. And I'm sure the connect between you and Vicki and other people who would be coming, this will flow, and the journey of happiness podcast will continue with this leader to leader section also in this happiness podcast. Thank you, Vicki, for this question, answering this question. Now, I will leave this ball in your court. You have to leave a question for the next speaker.
Thank you. So my question to you is, if you could gift happiness to a particular population or a group of people, who would they be and why would you do that?
With this, we come to a closing section, and I would like to ask you one words that matters to you, and we convert that into a beautiful song. And whatever words you are going to say, or keywords you want to give to us, we will use those keywords and we will try to convert that into a beautiful song.
I think what I would say in closing is that that we need to take time to enjoy and embrace the small things in life, because the incrementalism of embracing joy, laughter, happiness, which are words that I talk about a lot, particularly with my family around a joyous occasion, adds up to the sum of the parts, which is happiness. And so just doing this podcast has made me very happy and content. So joyousness, happiness, contentment, and intention would be the words that I would think about in terms of guiding premises, if you like, of what I try and follow. Don't always succeed, but I try my hardest.
In a world that moves so fast, we often forget the little moments that last. A smile shared, a kind word, a gentle breeze. These are treasures simple, yet they bring us ease. Laughter is the melody is the rhythm that carries us through. Contentment is the silence between the notes, and intention is the voice that guides what we do. So let us pause to see the beauty in the everyday, the warmth of friendship, the sparkle of discovery, the gift of time spent together. This is our song of happiness, not grand, not distant, but found in the small things. A song we all can sing, a song we all can share. Let's live with laughter, let's walk with joy. Let's choose happiness with contentment and intention, for this is the music of life.
So with this, we come to the end of this wonderful podcast. Thank you so much, Miss Vicki, for taking up all the questions and taking a time from your busy schedules. I know you are managing 8 universities, top research intensive universities in Australia. On behalf of Amity University Reiki Foundation Center for Science of Happiness, we express our deepest gratitude, Vicki ma'am, for your time, wisdom, and inspiration. As we close today's Executive Harmony podcast, let us carry forward the spirit of harmony, leadership, and human flourishing that you have so beautifully highlighted. To our listeners, thank you for joining us, and until next time, continue to spread happiness, nurture values, and work together for a brighter and more harmonious world. Once again, a heartfelt thank you to you, Ms. Vicki Thomson.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
It's been fantastic. Thank you very much, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you. And thank you to all the audience for coming. Thank you so much. Signing off from here, Professor Nitin Arora, the Professor of Happiness at Amity University. Thank you so much for signing. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
मौसम गया जहां मीठी बातें हर एक अजनबी से हो, भूले हम भी जो सारी फिक्रें, लम्हा लम्हा खुशियां।
आजकल सारे उदास रह रहे हैं, लेकिन आपकी जिंदगी में कुछ खुशी का जरिया होगा, तो आपको क्या खुश करता है?
What makes you happy?
पैसा और वर्किंग आउट, पैसा और वर्किंग आउट।
फ्रेंड्स, बेस्ट फ्रेंड,
ओके। तो इसके अलावा और कुछ? फैमिली। और पैसा रहेगा तो सब अपने आप ही खुश हो जाएंगे, इसलिए यही आप कहना चाह रहे हो। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
ऐसा क्यों ना कोई खेल जिसमें सब ही की हो जीत, इन दिनों भूलो तारे कोई भी देखता नहीं, देखे उनको दीवाने हो के कोई कितना भी हमको टोके, खुली हवा हो खुला समा, जागे हुए हो सब अरमा, baby baby baby, हम धड़कने दिल जैसे
कैसे हो, खाया क्या, खुशियों की कसम। ओ हेलो, ऑफ है मूड, सैड हो तो सुनो। देखो मैंने तो खा ली है हैप्पीनेस वाली कसम, इसके साथ ही कह दिया टाटा बाय टू ऑल द गम। हाय कैसे हो, खुश हो क्या, सच कहो। ओके लिसन, देखो ना झूम रही हूँ पूछो कैसे। सबको रिकमेंड करती हूँ मैं हैप्पीनेस वाली कसम, जिंदगी में एक ही काफी है, नो टेंशन हम हैं मगन।